I wonder how that murder drones video I made is doing. What? What the f- Okay. So I guess we're doing this now. In all seriousness, thank you all a million times over for enjoying the heck out of that last video. I plan on producing more of my written work with better editing going forward. So I'll be continuing my vision for MD Season 2, but I'd also like to showcase some of my other written stuff for you guys, if you're cool with it. In fact, if you want a head start on some of the content I plan on sharing with you guys, head over to Amazon. You can read the first 3 chapters of my 2 books for free. Again, I can't thank you all enough. And I do plan on incorporating artwork in future uploads. In fact, if you want to be part of this fan project, send a small portfolio of your work to the email on screen. I'll be considering every entry. Now, let's get into Season 2, Episode 2 of Murder Drones, written by me. We open on Jay's seemingly lifeless corpse, flying aimlessly through space, still slumped over within the repair pod. There's a slow pan-in on her broken display screen, the music slowly rising Inception style until the yellow light of the absolute solver symbol kicks on. Jay opens her eyes and finds herself back in the ballroom of the mansion that she, V, and N grew up in. Not having long to take in her surroundings, she winces as blood splatters onto her maid apron. Touching it with one hand, her eyes widen as she hears a gurgle nearby. Following the noise, her eyes soon rest upon Tessa, who is standing nearby with her back facing her. "Boss?" Jay asks, reaching out and touching Tessa's shoulder. The body slumps back, revealing a glitchy, shadowy hole where Tessa's eyes should be. Yellow light starts to fill them as Sin's laughter engulfs the scene, the other drones scattered around the room developing the XD yellow eyes.
"Ready to get to work, Jay?"
Sin asks as Tessa's body contorts and stands up, revealing the Sin Tessa we all know and love. The head twitches, revealing Sintessa's face and the creepy yet somehow cute, I guess, smile as we zoom in on Jay's shocked expression. Back on Copper 9, Uzi lays in her bed, staring up at the creepy drawings still connected by red string above her. Although these days there's plenty of sketches of her and N in crayon, covering most of the horrible things she drew back before Sin arrived. N's work brings a soft smile to her face, until we see a certain sketch of what might as well be a horrifying mutated V peeking out from behind a drawing of her and N holding hands. As she stares, the absolute solver snakes its way over her shoulder and chuckles.
"You know, you're really..."
Uzi grabs its mouth shut, throwing it back under her covers before covering it up completely with her comforter. The yellow light from its eyes illuminates the fabric like a flashlight under skin. As the solver mumbles to itself, Uzi develops the frustrated symbol on her display before glaring back up at her work while sighing dramatically. Her display monitor slowly starts to shift to a look of concern. Flashes of the final battle with Sin appear in her mind. She recalls how V treated her and N after the battle, how chill they all got with one another, and how lately it feels like it's all falling apart. All of it suddenly ends as an MP3 player smacks Uzi in the side of her head. Jolting up, she looks over to shout at who she thinks invaded her room. "Dad, stay out of my..." Uzi breaks off, realizing that Nori, not Mr. Dorman, has crawled into her room. Uzi quiets down as Nori just stares at her, her single eye conveying a lack of sympathy. "Nightmares again, huh?" Nori asks. Uzi points back at the little crab core. "Bite me! It's your fault I'm like this." The absolute solver then pokes its head up from beneath the covers.
"Actually, it's mine."
"Would you just," Uzi shouts, grabbing her tail and shaking it back and forth. I put in parentheses here, make sure to add in some lines of the absolute solver making the
ooh, wee
sound effect as it's waved around like a glow stick on New Year's.
Anyway, last week...
Nori points a claw at them. "Both of you cut it out. Come on, young lady, your father and I need your help." With that, Nori exits the room, leaving Uzi and the solver watching her departure. Before getting out of bed, the solver bites Uzi's hand when she's not looking, leading to Uzi angrily grabbing her with her power and wrapping it up in a bow before tucking it in her jacket pocket. As she leaves, the corner of the scary drawing of V bends in the air conditioning of the room, the camera slowly moving up and letting it fill the screen. Elsewhere, N walks past rows of lockers and the splattered remains of one of the committee members from Season 1 with a sign above it that reads, "Someone please clean this up," and passes the teacher drone, who he waves at. The teacher gives N a "why are you waving at me" look before walking away, leaving N smiling and alone. The lights of the hallway flicker, and N looks around, watching as some lingering students walk by. After a moment, he smiles and pulls out his official N phone, now available on the Glitch merch store. Disclaimer: N phone is not an actual cellular device. It's for display only. Any attempts to contact characters from the show will be met with disappointment and unending loneliness. Please use the natural phone. Contact your parents instead. Using his phone, we see it's yellow with what looks like crock pop socket things all around it. We witness N opening his contacts, which consists of names like Tall Ghost Witch, Greater Than 3, which is Uzi, Homecoming President, which is Lizzie, Thadasaurus Rex, obvious, Doraholic, Mr. Dorman, Uzi's mom, and V. N stares at V's contact for a moment. There's no picture, no emojis, just a number and a letter. After a moment or two of silence, N shakes his head and texts Uzi. He asks if she's awake yet. He gets no answer, so he puts his phone away and takes out his wings, flying down the hallway and scaring the daylights out of a couple of student drones. Elsewhere, we see Lizzie poking V as she hangs wrapped up from the ceiling, covered by her wings. Lizzie gives her signature disgusted sigh before shaking her head. "My dad wants to know if you're going to eat him later," she says. When V doesn't answer, Lizzie looks concerned again and turns to leave. Before she gets to the door, she hears V's wings move. "Lizzie?" she says, almost quietly. Lizzie stops and waits, not turning around. "If it's about your pet thing, I haven't seen it since yesterday." V uncoils herself and falls from the ceiling, landing on her feet and looking out the window. "Did we win?" she asks. The question doesn't get an immediate answer. Lizzie can only blankly stare back at her friend, wondering what on earth is going on inside her head. The moment is then ruined as Lizzie's gaze drops and she groans, "I thought you were over this." V slowly closes her eyes and sharply turns. "I'm serious. Whatever, you're being weird lately. I'm gonna go say goodbye to my dad before you eat him." Lizzie leaves V in her room as the camera focuses on a picture Lizzie took of her, Thad, V, her pet Sentry, and even N and Uzi, which is framed and sitting on her bedstand. We cut back to N arriving at the Dorman residence, letting himself in and accidentally scratching the front door as he folds in his wings. Before he can start apologizing, Mr. Dorman is there screeching like a little girl before running over and pulling polish out of seemingly nowhere, immediately getting to work on repairing the small damage N inflicted. Watching him work, N can't help but compliment how prepared he was for this oddly specific moment, before Uzi calls him in from the living room area. N walks in and excitedly shouts Uzi's name before running over and hugging her. Uzi giggles. "N, I just saw you like an hour ago," she says, dropping her smile as soon as she sees Nori, almost glaring back at her. "Anyway, since you're here, help me get in this thing," Nori growls, crawling up the side of the empty, stitched-together drone husk, which we can see is sitting in a chair, hooked up to a bunch of random wires and cables in the center of the living room. It doesn't take her long to start sliding into its uneven, mostly open chest cavity. N looks at Uzi and smiles before walking over and helping to hold the chest cavity open. Before Nori gets inside, she takes a moment to make sure that N is blocking Uzi's view of them and gives N a small smack. N says ow, and Nori puts a claw over his eye display, warning him without saying a word. N gets the message and carefully helps her crawl in, closing the chest cavity as the patchwork drone body starts to glow. Uzi watches carefully, following the purple light as it slowly begins to travel up each set of stitches and wires, holding the different body chunks together. The Purple light from Nori's new body begins to glow brighter and brighter, suddenly filling the room with blinding light just as En and Uzi start to widen their eyes. Uzi uses her power and pulls En back just as the power in the room shorts out, leaving everyone in darkness, illuminated only by their eyes. The wires that were connected to Nori's new body slowly cool down, the red-hot glow simmering away as En and Uzi hold one another's hands before the emergency red lights kick on. As they do, they see Nori's new body curled up in the corner of the room, giggling to itself as it slowly turns around, revealing the murder drone XD face. "Ah, biscuits," En says, as Uzi rubs her eyes at the exact moment when the absolute solver peeks out from inside her jacket pocket. We move over to Thad, taking apart Uzi's railgun and putting it back together on a nearby roof while head-banging to a song he's humming. We can see a crudely drawn blueprint in his hand as he studies each individual element of the weapon. Reaching up to his head, he takes a deep breath and taps the side of his temple, starting a timer just before reaching down and quickly assembling the entire railgun, very cool matter of seconds, before spinning it on one finger. As soon as he's done, he taps the side of his head again, and the time flashes across his face. The words, "New record," appear beneath the time, and Thad cheers for himself, just in time for V to suddenly land behind him and scare him half to death. "Oh, hey, V," Thad says, trying to hide his blueprints and catch his breath. "Long time, no time, short time no see?" The disassembly drone doesn't say anything, instead walking over and smiling at his blueprints. "You told Uzi about this yet?" she asks. "Told her about what?" Thad says, sounding like he's struggling to hide something. V uses her tail to snag the blueprints away, taking a better look at them as Thad nervously fidgets behind her, still clutching the railgun. After a moment or two, he speaks up. "Hey, so listen, I think it's super cool that you took on Jay," and in a flash, V is in front of him, pointing a claw at his chest. "Don't act like you know me," she threatens. Right, got it. Not on the familiar yet." Thad tries to laugh, but it comes out like a little squeal. I mean, can you blame that guy? I mean, he's watched this thing murder his friends repeatedly. I think it's totally normal reaction on his part. Anyway, V drops the blueprints, now with an acid-burnt hole in the middle of them, before walking to the edge and looking up at the sky. The stars almost look like they're moving tonight, and Thad dares to join her. "Hey, V," Thad says, watching as the wind and snow continue to blow around them. He doesn't see the frustrated symbol appear on V's display. "Do you think there's, I don't know, more crazy murder stuff out there?" The question gets V to lower her guard just a little. Moving her gaze to the destroyed city below, she listens as Thad continues to speak. "I mean, hopefully not as bad as Sin, but still kinda bad. You think something like that could be coming?" V doesn't know what to say. With the radio and seeing Jay's corpse float away into space, who knows? Like coming right now, maybe in the next couple of minutes? V looks at Thad. "What are you..." Thad looks surprised and is pointing up at the skyline. V hears a sonic boom and looks up and, oh my goodness! It's the pods from the last episode! They're landing and stuff! Continuity! Yay! V? Thad asks. "Cover me!" V shouts, flying quickly after the pods and almost knocking Thad off the roof of the building. He catches himself on the ledge by jamming the railgun under a rail and manages to pull himself up. Back in the doorman's residence, Nori looks ready to pounce as Uzi and En both get ready for a fight, just as Mr. Dorman walks back in the room. "Door's fine. What'd I miss?" he asks, just as Nori suddenly leaps onto him, tackling him into the next room. "Hey!" Uzi shouts, running into the front entryway, where she finds Nori nibbling on Khan. That's Mr. Dorman's name, by the way. Like a cat. She's all hunched over him as he laughs, eventually reaching up and petting her patchwork head as she growls playfully. "Aw, that's not supposed to happen," En chuckles. Khan leads Nori between Uzi and En, As she passes between them, Nori hisses at En, making him jump back as Khan calms her down. Easy, girl. Let's get you plugged back in. En and Uzi back up as Khan resecures the patchwork body, shutting it down as Nori dizzily crawls out of its chest. Ugh, why am I craving cat food? Must be all that hybrid code, not letting the flow through properly, just like a door. Nori uses her power to grab Khan and bring him down to her level. One more door analogy out of you and I'm taking your body instead. Khan chuckles and gives the small crabcore a little peck, making her grumble and cross her claws. En breathes a sigh of relief as Uzi and him watch, until he sees Uzi looking very concerned. Instead of asking her what's wrong, En lifts her hand, still clasped in his own, which brings her back to reality long enough to focus on him. A small smile fills her face as they both look back at Khan and Nori. Well, I'm just glad everything turned out okay, Khan chuckles, just in time for the power to shut off again as the ground rumbles beneath them. The 4 drones' lights illuminate the darkness as Nori crawls up on Khan's shoulder. Wasn't me, she admits. We then hear En's phone go off. Pulling it out, he opens it and sees a text from Thadasaurus Rex. It reads, "Where are you?" in all caps with 3 question marks. Uzi and En both share a look. Cut back to V, who flies straight at the first pod as it lands perfectly in the snow. Time seems to slow down to a crawl, as V transforms her hands into claws and lashes out like a drill bit just as the first pod door opens. Connecting with the first drone she sees, V tackles the new enemy through the pod and out its back wall, crumpling the craft as she and the new arrival topple over one another in the snow. Got you, V shouts, rolling her victim over and stopping just before firing her missile launcher into the face, or rather, what's left of the face of this new arrival. Wait, half of this drone's face is missing, and V realizes she didn't do it this time. Also, this drone kinda looks like Jay, but small, like Uzi's size instead of disassembly drone size. And she looks terrified. In fact, instead of fighting back, this new drone just puts her hands in front of her half face and starts begging for her life. Please, please, please don't hurt me. V hesitates, which is exactly the kind of opening the second new arrival needs. Crashing into her from behind, V tumbles through the air as the new combatant smashes her through the side of the Tower of Corpses. Inside, they find their way into its hollow middle, as V tries to fight back and manages to claw the side of the new assailant's head, knocking its hat off. As the pilot cap lands in the snow nearby, with black gloop fluid stuff dripping from the tip of its brim, V recognizes it and watches as the new drone slowly looks back at her, the cuts across its face repairing as the new drone frowns. Should have known it'd be you, the new N says. N? What? V tries to say, just as the new N barrels through the air at her, transforming his hand into a chainsaw and cutting her wings off. V falls back into the snow as new N swoops around and grabs his hat, sliding it back on before landing on the edge of the inside of the corpse tower, his yellow eyes glowing down at her as snow falls just outside the new hole they've made. Why am I not surprised you're trying to kill us again? The new N shouts, just as the 50% off J starts calling N's name. Ned! Ned! Wait! The other J shouts, running in. She stands between them, waving frantically, trying to get them to stop. She doesn't know. Leave her alone. V is completely shell-shocked, even as the new N lowers his gaze. After a moment of tense silence between the 3 of them, new N flies back to the ground and joins half-headed J before folding his arms behind her. Silently saying thank you, the new J turns to look at V and offers her a hand up. It's all right. See? You must be V, right? Half there, J asks. V can hardly believe it. This is the same voice, same mannerisms, same face, or half face? This Jay even has half a ponytail. It's almost like the real thing. The almost Jay notices V staring at her and awkwardly rubs the missing area of her head. It doesn't hurt, in case you were wondering. Ned, heavy quotations, chimes in. We're wasting our time. She's just going to try and murder us. Hey, don't act like you know me, narc, V yells. It's Ned, Ned yells back, pushing past mostly their Jay and standing aggressively over V, who glares back at him. And we do know you, and how much you like to hurt people. Ned, divided we fall, Jay says. We're not letting our guard down this time, Ned says over his shoulder. She's a V. We can't trust her. V, Thad yells, finally showing up, pointing his railgun at the limited in body but not in function Jay. Get back, V yells. Not this time, Vster, looking through the scope as the green laser rests on moderated Jay's half head. Besides, Lizzie kill me if I let her bestie get eaten by... Wait, Enron? Thad asks, lowering the gun. Jazz, Ned says, hunching down and opening his wings. Stay behind me. No, you are not doing this, 50% off Jay says, grabbing Ned before he can fly at Thad. All you bozos, shut up and chill. We're not your enemies. They're not gonna listen, N yells, trying to get out of her grasp. Incomplete Jay shakes her head, her eyes shut tight as she holds him around his waist. Yes, they will. We have to trust them, too, she says, her voice softening as N slowly stops, looking down at half Jay and letting his hands transform back from weapons to fingers. The half Jay smiles at him. Who are you? V demands, keeping her claws out as she stands up. Fragmented Jay lets go of Ned and holds her hands up, trying to smile again. We're not going to hurt anyone, right, Ned? She says, saying Ned's name like a threat. There's the Jay I know, V thinks. We just want to speak to whoever's in charge, half off Jay says. Oh, so Uzi? Thad asks innocently. Thad! V and Uzi yell at the same time as Uzi and N land nearby. Uzi lands in the snow and runs over, grabbing her railgun back. Don't freaking dox me! Uzi? N says, locking eyes with Ned. They stare at one another, both looking surprised. You're still alive? Ned asks. Think so, N admits. Wait, no! Who are you? Why are you here? You can't have Uzi! Why would I want an Uzi? Ned asks, clearly starting to lose his mind. V, what's with the discount clones? Uzi asks, leveling her railgun at Jay's half head. Don't know, don't care, V says, getting ready to strike again. Half off Jay strikes a familiar, I can't believe I have to work with these idiots pose, before glaring back at Uzi. We're here to rescue you idiots, all right? Everyone stops and looks at her. Even Thad, who we can see has started making a new railgun out of snow. Uzi eventually snaps out of it and walks up to Jay. Yeah, right. Save us from what? She asks. Sin's alive, Ned says, looking kind of disappointed at N. We're pretty sure she's on her way here. There's a moment of tense, rising music before all four OG characters say, huh? Though it's cut off mid-word. Back in space, Jay's corpse starts to stir. The craft around it rumbles and creaks as the cracks in the glass of her display continue to grow. The outside of the ship starts to groan as everything begins to shake, flames rolling off the inside of the craft as warnings flash across every working screen. The entire ship shudders just as Jay's monitor slowly starts to blink back to life. Everything goes black as we hear a boom, followed by the sound of water rushing in as a distress signal gurgles within the pool. The last thing we hear is a familiar yet scratchy voice through the pod's damaged emergency radio. Hang it! We're coming to keep you guys up! Sin yells.
You're looking my way. Try to give it a chance, yeah. But my heart didn't sway. There was no romance there.